With the recent popularity of the legendary Monsterverse films, there are tons of new fans to the franchise. I'm somewhat lucky as I grew up in the late Showa and early Heisei era, so getting into Godzilla back then was fairly easy. Fast forward to today, and with over 30 films from 4 eras, jumping into the Godzilla pool can be a bit overwhelming. After the success of the trailers for Godzilla vs. Kong, I've seen tons of people on Reddit and in the comments asking what they should watch as a newcomer to get ready for the film, so let's do this. I put the movies that I think are worth watching into 4 different groups. That way we have the bare minimum for rookies to watch in the first 2 groups. We'll go a bit deeper for extra credit in the third one. And for the more seasoned fans, I put in a deep dive, the tier 4 section, which includes some stuff you may have seen already and hopefully something you haven't. Yet still I think these are good films to watch even for the more avid fans to pass the time before the release of Godzilla vs. Kong. For those of you looking for the quick answer, there are 3 films you really should watch that all sit here in tier 1. Or perhaps, maybe you only like the modern CGI stuff, or you just want the connected stuff without the fluff, then what you need are just those 3 films from the legendary Monsterverse. Godzilla, Kong of Skull Island, and Godzilla King of the Monsters. Godzilla begins the Monsterverse introducing you to the Big G. It's a movie with a good build-up. Lots of people did complain, however, that there wasn't enough of Godzilla early on in the film. But I like the slow burn. To me, the scenes with Godzilla are that much more impactful for doing so. It's a tactic seen in 1979's Alien, a film that rivals the 1954 Gojira as my favorite movie of all time. Kong of Skull Island is set in the 70s, where the other 2 films are in more modern times. But here, you'll get to meet Kong as a young Titan as he's learning how to fit into his role as protector of the main entrance to the surface from the Hollow Earth. The Hollow Earth is the main focus for Godzilla vs. Kong, and it's rumored to contain the source of the Titans, so this is a must-watch. Next up is Godzilla King of the Monsters. There's no Kong here, but Godzilla takes on his arch-nemesis in King Ghidorah along with Toho favorites Mothra and Rodan. This is the film before Godzilla vs. Kong, with only 5 years in between the 2. So of course it sets up what will happen next, and is the third must-watch film to get ready for vs. Kong. Looking at the second group, there are 3 films that I think are strongly tied to Godzilla vs. Kong without existing in the same Monsterverse. These would be the Toho films of King Kong vs. Godzilla, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, and Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. Again, these are Toho films, and they're not in the same universe canon-wise as the legendary films. But they all heavily inspired the story and plot that Godzilla vs. Kong is likely using. From what we've seen so far, Godzilla vs. Kong is a rematch of King Kong vs. Godzilla with Mecha G thrown in. So of course, watching King Kong vs. Godzilla is a good idea in preparation for vs. Kong. In Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, we get the first appearance of Mecha G, and Godzilla teams up with King Caesar to fight off Mechagodzilla. A fitting matchup as Kong and Godzilla are expected to team up to fight off Legendary's Mechagodzilla. As for the tie-in with Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, well, that version of Mecha G was made using the skeleton of the original 1954 Godzilla. In Godzilla 2014 of the legendary Monsterverse, we saw the skeleton of Dagon, a relative of Godzilla. And in King of the Monsters, we see the Ghidorah skull. We know from vs. Kong's director that the Ghidorah head is tied to Mecha G, leaving many of us to believe that, like Kiryu, the Millennium Mechagodzilla, this new version will be made using that skeleton and/or that Ghidorah skull. And that really is all you need to watch to get ready for Godzilla vs. Kong, but for the more seasoned G fans or newbies wanting to go the distance, I present to you groups 3 and 4. Consider this third group of films as extra credit. It begins with the Heisei era's Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. This is here solely due to the possibility of Mecha King Ghidorah appearing in vs. Kong. Although I don't think it's very likely, it's still relevant to add on here as this era's Mecha G was built from the wreckage of Mecha King Ghidorah. After that, I think you could watch the origin films for Godzilla and King Kong. For Godzilla, we have the 1956 American Godzilla King of the Monsters and the 1954 Japanese Gojira. If you can't handle old black and white stuff, I'd first say to give them a try anyway, but if you still can't do it, try Godzilla 1985 or its more accessible Japanese version, The Return of Godzilla, a Heisei era's Godzilla beginning. And if you still think the 80s stuff is too old, then give Shin Godzilla a try. It's a new modern take on Godzilla that has a great origin story. As for Kong, same thing. The 1933 film is absolutely brilliant. It's the inspiration for Godzilla and all other kaiju. There's also the version from 1976, and then the more recent one with the 2005 Peter Jackson take. All of these have great origin stories. And if you need more Mechagodzilla, then there's Terror of Mechagodzilla, the Showa-era sequel, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, the Heisei era's take where humans make Mecha G instead of it coming from space like the Showa one did, and Godzilla Tokyo SOS, the follow-up for Against Mechagodzilla of the Millennium Era, where Mothra joins the battle. And now, here we are, the bottom of the barrel, so to speak, but these are still great films. They're just barely connected to Godzilla vs. Kong, or purely here for inspiration. These are the deep dives, where we start off with Ready Player One, a film that's not a part of any Godzilla universe, yet a film that is built on nostalgia. Now you'd think Godzilla would appear, but instead, Mecha G and King Kong do, and they both look amazing. Their scenes are action-packed and definitely worth checking out. Have you seen all the Mechagodzilla stuff and now want something different and maybe a bit misleading? Well, here it is, Mecha G from the animated Godzilla trilogy. It truly is a deep dive into Mechagodzilla, just don't expect the traditional Mecha G. Most people hated these movies. I personally like the new look at an old franchise, but Mechagodzilla here was a big letdown. So how about some more Kong love then? If you need more of King Kong, there's always The Son of Kong, the original sequel. King Kong Escapes, where a Showa King Kong, different from the one that was in King Kong vs. Godzilla, meets up with Mechana-Kong, the inspiration for Mechagodzilla. There's also King Kong Lives, the 1980s sequel to the 1970s King Kong, where we see Kong get a heart transplant and a family, lots of fun, with lots of blood. I'd also recommend watching Godzilla vs. Megalon. Even though tons of people out there hate this one, it's one of my favorites. And Godzilla vs. Kong is focusing on the Hollow Earth. And guess who were the original Hollow Earth dwellers? That's right, the toga-wearing Seatopians of Godzilla vs. Megalon. Other than that, guys, I did notice that the production designers for Godzilla vs. Kong said that a few films inspired them while making the movie. They were Godzilla vs. Mothra, Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, and Shin Godzilla. Now, Destoroyah actually has a slight chance of moving up higher on the list. We saw that Oxygen Destroyer missile used in Godzilla King of the Monsters, and the Oxygen Destroyer of the Showa era was even teased on Mike Dougherty's Twitter during the making of the film. They also list The War of the Worlds, and I have to say that the original one is one of the greatest films of all time. And they also list the swimming scene from Alien Resurrection. And as a huge Alien fan, I know Resurrection's not exactly popular, but most of us thought that scene with the alien swimming looked pretty good, which I'm betting was a reference to how Godzilla moves through the water or some other Hollow Earth monster. Well, since you made it this far in the video, I thought I'd add in one more bonus just for fun. So how about Frankenstein meets the Wolfman? Not only is it one of the first, quote, monster mashup movies, leading to the versus fights Godzilla films are so fond of, but the Showa era's King Kong vs. Godzilla was originally a King Kong vs. Prometheus film, with Prometheus being the name of Mary Shelley's book, Frankenstein, the Modern Prometheus. Frankenstein would be replaced, however, with the bigger box office draw of Godzilla, giving us King Kong vs. Godzilla, the highest grossing Godzilla film of its time. A movie that helped save the Godzilla franchise after the poor follow-up with Godzilla Raids Again. So what do you guys think? Did I miss adding something to the list? Are any of your favorites here? Let's discuss down below. And as always, guys, take care. Your likes, shares, comments, and subscriptions go a long way towards helping the channel grow. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.